What do you think are the best recommended methods for practicing the IELTS speaking test?
Two things really. First, I did mention it earlier, but I would recommend that candidates go to IELTS.org and they allow themselves to become very, very familiar with the public band score descriptors. It's basically that an examiner would use on the day, but a bit fuller to actually grade their test. So that's one thing. Second thing would also be another website. It's actually on YouTube. It's IELTS by IDP on YouTube. Now on that channel there is a playlist which contains many candidates, and it goes from a range of a 3.5 band score all the way up to a 9, go through 8s, 8.5s to 9. What that will allow a candidate to do is kind of real world have access to the band scores as a real graded test, so they know this is a 6 or this is a 7 by IDP. They'll have access to the public band score descriptors from IELTS.org, and then they'll actually be able to feel real world, okay, what does a 7 sound like? How does it sound different from a 6? And they should be able to hear that difference. Now, regarding actual real-time practice, find a partner. There has to be another person involved, really. That you can practice at home on your own in front of a mirror, but it's much better to have two people in a conversation. So what candidates really should do is, with a partner, take turns, role play. I'll be the examiner, you be the examinee, you're the test taker, and record it. And actually really focus on giving it your best. And then that pair has to go back and listen to that recording. They have to focus on the good points, so remember to take that forwards and use them again, but perhaps more importantly focus on where errors are occurring, either pronunciation errors, final consonants perhaps, or where broken fluency occurs most often, where is a candidate hesitating the most during the test. It's also an opportunity to really hear where vocabulary mistakes are occurring, and what types of grammar a candidate is making the most errors with. With that information, they can actually refocus on those areas of weakness, put that into practice for another practice listening that they record again, and then they listen again with a focus on those errors, and that's repeated. That's done again and again and again, and the pair would swap roles where I examine you and then you examine me. And if you do that for long enough, over enough days, candidates should become more aware of where their weaknesses are, for sure, and then they can really focus on trying to pull those up.
How can a candidate get band 8 in IELTS speaking?
With difficulty, but it's not impossible. I'll refer back to what I've said earlier. Candidates should be very familiar of what a band 8 actually looks like on the public band descriptors. They should know that exactly. If a candidate were to drop down for any of those 4 separate areas that they're graded on, it's going to be so hard for them to achieve an 8. So really, candidates have to aim for an 8, 8, 8, 8. If they achieve a 7, for example, in fluency and coherence, they would need to achieve a 9 somewhere else to balance it out. So really to look above 7s, really that you cannot afford to have a 7 for any of them if you're going to be achieving an 8. It makes it so much more difficult. Again, looking back at IELTS by IDP, they do have several samples on that YouTube channel of 7s, 7.5s, 8s, 8.5s and 9s. So it's actually, that's a very useful resource. It does allow a candidate to hear the real world difference between a 7 or a 7.5 or a 7.5 and an 8. I would really refer them back to IELTS Essentials or IELTS.org for those public band descriptors. and to focus on those. That's what an examiner will be using, but slightly fuller and more secret. But yes, the knowledge of the public band scores and what they need to achieve.